Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, we're going to be talking about addiction as I am joined by author Jessi Hartnett. Jessi became addicted and she wished she knew then what she knew now. So she wants to spread the message and talk to people and help give them the strength to fight their addiction and get through it. So we're going to be talking to Jessi about that and her wonderful book. So Jessi, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey there, I'm real happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'll just start with the smoking. I started smoking when I was about 13 years old. And, at that time, when you're young, you're kind of looking for an identity. You're looking for a community. You got this call on you to figure out who you are. And so that's how I ended up going into smoking with some older friends and just got hooked right off the bat. Quickly became a priority for me, spent a lot of time and effort and energy trying to get my smokes and get money for it, and kind of just became my main hobby. I stopped doing the things that I like doing and was pretty much like all I did with my friends. Everything centered around smoking and drinking and partying. And despite all that, though, I kind of had like this other side of me that was super perfectionist and really driven. So I was like doing really well in school and working really hard. And it looked like from the outside that, I was excelling and successful, but like internally, I was really struggling kind of like with my self-perception, my esteem, and like with all the ups and downs of, smoking and drinking and just, continue to go on this way for many, many years, all through high school, through college, and was like really unsatisfied, like kind of just felt like a part of me was missing the whole time. And like everything changed. There was like a moment where it's just like I started to get introduced to spiritual concepts. Until then I was like a real science person. Like everything was numbers and facts, and if I couldn't see it, then I wouldn't believe it. And I thought that meant that we're all here accidentally, that, we have no purpose in life and there's really no meaning to anything we do or say. And so that was the kind of attitude that was driving me to keep hurting myself by smoking. And then I got introduced to the spiritual concept of like self-worth, self-love, like coming into the world, like already having a soul and a purpose. And, we kind of forget that when we're born here, but we all have gifts to bring. And the real fun part of life is discovering those gifts, discovering who you are, and letting your light shine and make the world a better place. So that once I kind of had that idea, it just really struck my heart. And I was like, wow, maybe there is something more than just paying bills here. And so started going down that path and just started kind of like paying attention to the thoughts I was having more, because I was kind of like an autopilot, just getting by, just working hard, trying to get things done, checking lists off, and wasn't just going through the motions, just kind of taking the way I was looking at the world for granted. Like, this is the way I see it, and this is the way it is, and that's the way it is for everybody. But then when I slowed down and I was really listening to the things I was telling myself, they were so negative and harsh. And I was like, why am I talking to myself like this? Like, I wouldn't talk to somebody else like that, And so I was able to make a real clear link between having a negative thought or a really strong emotion that kind of I didn't want to deal with and wanting to smoke. And that was the key, because up until then I had tried to try to stop smoking, like, I don't even know how many times, like dozens. And then like every time it was because I was trying to use like my head. I was like trying to reason myself. I'm like, come on, this is a bad thing and the numbers aren't in your favor. But like that wasn't enough to address that like emotional reaction need I had in the given moments. Like, I just want to feel good right now. I don't care about later. And so when I was able to connect, like, hey, there's something like an underlying thought here, an underlying drive, and that's maybe I should start focusing on that instead of like, oh, just don't smoke, don't see cigarettes, avoid it all that kind of thing. And so that's what really helped me be able to quit after 15 years of smoking.
Okay, so did your did your smoking addiction lead to, other harder drugs, or was it just smoking cigarettes and drinking?
I smoked a lot of pot, marijuana. I started with that pretty early too. So it was like pretty much daily smoking cigarettes and pot, and then drinking I came back into like with college and kind of I was able to function the whole time. So that's why like it didn't really seem like I was an alcoholic because it's like, well, I'm showing up to work, I'm paying my bills, I must be doing good. But it's more about the feeling you get when you do it, and just kind of having a hard time slowing down with it. I was when I did do it, I was always drinking a lot. So that's kind of like was mainly what I would do. I would try other things too, of course. I really didn't really pass out much, but it was smoking that it was like the in, day out kind of thing. And yeah, once I was able to quit though, it was like totally different person. Like I thought that's who I was and that was my identity, but I am so much more than that. And it just kind of, it's like so freeing to get rid of that distraction and that kind of obsession. And you can just open up your life and try so many things and really figure out who you are and find a way to like take care of yourself. I think that was like the biggest motivator for me is that I just started like working on my self-esteem and self-worth. And then I just didn't want to smoke anymore or do any of that stuff. Like I don't miss it at all. And that was like a big deal for me because when I was young, I only know a couple people that had stopped smoking. And they were always like kind of putting it on a pedestal and glorifying it, like, oh, I miss it every day and I wish I could, but I can't. And I thought that was pretty miserable. I was like, I don't even want to bother quitting if that's what it's like. So I never knew that I could get to this place that it's just like not something I want anymore.
Okay, well, I guess while you were doing it, you got a lot of college education, so kind of let the listeners know about your college education and how you've grown.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good thing. I'm glad I did it, but it was really a lot of stress and anxiety for me. And trying to fit in with that kind of culture of like just, working yourself to death, the competition just was a little bit much for me and I feel like I didn't really get the lessons I appreciate most in life in the actual classroom. It was outside of that. Like I didn't know how to cook when I went to college. I didn't even know how to fry an egg. And luckily I had friends that helped me and support me with that. So that was like the real thing that I got the most out of college was just learning how to take care of myself because I didn't have the best setup for that.
Okay, well, you're also an author, so tell us about your book. Tell us where we can get your book and what readers can expect when they read it.
Yeah, so like I said, my life has just kind of opened up. I've been shining, trying to be my best self, trying every day to learn more, to go deeper with my self-care and my understanding of, my place in the world and the way I can connect to other people. And I had a daughter, and it's just been amazing being able to see how great life can be. Like she just is so just amazed by everything and just so genuine and authentic. And it kind of like made me take a look at how I can kind of look at the world anew. And I just started getting creative again, like I hadn't in a long time because I've been so scientific and rigid and was able to tap into that creativity of writing. And I used to love to write when I was young and started writing again. And the thing that kept coming up was my addictions, like what I had been through, like kind of seeing different ways to look at it, see kind of the struggle as something beautiful and meaningful, and decided to write a book. And so I wrote a book. It's called Honor Your Heart. It's not a memoir, it's kind of a guide using the ideas and the practices that helped me develop the self-worth that I needed to actually want to smoke and then stick with that and kind of learn how to emotionally regulate because I had become so dependent on smoking to calm me whenever I had unwanted feelings. And so coming to terms with my feelings and being able to regulate and to accept them and take care of myself. I write all that stuff in this book, but it's a really short book. It's, just takes maybe a couple hours to go through. You can go as deep as you want to with it. Definitely can spend more time going through the practices, but I just kind of wanted to share the ideas and information that worked for me, kind of like writing to a younger version of myself, like what I wish I had known earlier. And you can find my book. It's at honoryourheart.net.
Okay, speaking of heart, you talk about how you can use your heart to overcome addiction. So explain to listeners what you mean by that, and for somebody out there that might be struggling with addiction, how they can also use their heart to overcome addiction.
Oh yeah, that part is key. Thanks for bringing that up because yeah, I was always trying to reason my way out of smoking and kind of like set these rules for myself, but then I would end up like out rationalizing it and like it seems ridiculous, but I always find some excuse or some like workaround from these little rules that I had made and kind of just getting lost in my head with the stress, the anxiety, like getting caught on repetitive thoughts like over and over again, like, oh, I gotta do this thing, or I'm not good enough, I'm scared to do that, or any kind of like thing like that, where it's just like these repetitive thoughts. It's very unhelpful. So I learned through practicing a little bit of meditation that you can kind of calm that noise a little bit. Like I don't have the ability to ever make it fully go away, but I kind of just stop giving it the center of my attention. It's like, okay, the mind's gonna do what the mind's gonna do. Like, stop putting like feelings to it. Like, oh, that's a bad thought, or I need, any kind of like thing. You kind of just like tune out to the thoughts and then tune into your heart because in your heart is like that calm, steady center, and it knows exactly what you need to do with confidence. It's called intuition. And I was ignoring it most of my life because I was following the plan that other people were laying out for me, the expectations, and I wasn't really listening to what I wanted in life and what I knew was right. And since I've tapped into my intuition, like it's kind of difficult to describe, but you just kind of get a feeling once you practice it. It can be hard at first, and sometimes I still have doubt, but once you start to practice it, it really can change your life because you just have a feeling in your body when something's right and it makes life less overwhelming because we have so much information coming at us. The brain can't even process it all with all the internet and everybody has an opinion. You can look up something and you're looking at the exact opposite. One person says yes, the other person says absolutely no. And but if you can follow to that heart kind of guides you to what is going to be in your best interest and what's for the highest good. And the heart, it also allows us to have compassion where we are able to relate to others and then like kind of forgive ourselves and have mercy for ourselves for the mistakes we make and still show up and show that love that everyone deserves not only for the people in our lives, maybe some of them are harder to love than others, but like for ourselves.
All right. Well, tell us about any upcoming projects that you're working on that listeners need to be aware of.
Right now, I'm just putting everything I have, getting this book out to people. But I am on social media, do little content reels for people, and I get engagement on there, and it's always great for me to hear from people and interact with people. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, so you can just look up Honor Your Heart and find me.
So the honoryourheart.net, is that your website, or you have any other contact info?
Yeah, that's my website. So you can go on there. You'll see all my social media handles there at the bottom. And then you can also just shoot me an email if you ever want to start looking for support, need some direction. So my email is Jessie, Jessi, at honoryourheart.net.
Okay, we'll close us out with some final thoughts. Maybe if that was something I forgot to talk about that you would like to touch on, or any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
Yeah, just be yourself. It can be the scariest, hardest thing to do. It sounds simple, but it can actually be really scary because you kind of got to put yourself first, and that's not being selfish because taking care of yourself that just kind of ripples out in the world. Everyone sees that and it inspires other people, and it's a way that you can kind of get away from those negative thoughts, those hard feelings that like are making you want to hurt yourself by smoking. So that can be a really good place to start. Is just trying to get to know yourself and respecting what your true desires are.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. HonorYourHeart.net. You or somebody you know that can use Jessie's book or her words of wisdom about addiction. Follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. Jump on your favorite podcast app. Follow, rate, review, share the show. If you have any guest or suggestion topics, Curtis Jackson 1978 at att.net is the place to send them. Once again, HonorYourHeart.net. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. And Jessie, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Great talking with you.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.